The moment the acting president of Meridian Cargo International ordered security to remove me from the executive floor, she never even bothered to look up from the glossy presentation glowing on her tablet. In her world, I had already become yesterday's problem, a forgotten compliance officer whose career could be erased with a few signatures and a carefully prepared severance agreement. I stood silently beside the conference table, an ordinary brown file tucked beneath my arm, watching the executives around me pretend that nothing unusual was happening. None of them knew that inside those worn pages rested enough authenticated evidence to destroy every carefully manufactured lie they had spent months building. My name is Rebecca Hayes, and for nearly 13 years I worked in corporate integrity management, a department most employees barely remembered existed because our greatest victories came from disasters that never happened. Long-standing suppliers were replaced without explanation, and employees were encouraged to stop asking difficult questions because Olivia repeatedly insisted that confidence created success faster than caution ever could. At first, I believed the company was simply experiencing the normal turbulence that followed a change in leadership. Then I began noticing small inconsistencies. Unfamiliar contractors were receiving multi-million-pound agreements despite having almost no operating history. Financial approvals were bypassing mandatory legal checkpoints, and confidential projects were being awarded to companies connected to people within Olivina's inner circle. Whenever I raised concerns, I was told that Meridian Cargo was embracing a faster culture, where paperwork was considered an obstacle rather than protection. Instead of arguing, I quietly began building an independent archive outside the company's main network. I preserved copies of deleted emails, altered contracts, executive approvals, suspicious financial transfers, and internal messages before they could disappear forever. Years of compliance work had taught me something important. Corruption rarely begins with a dramatic crime. It begins with tiny compromises repeated so often that people eventually stop recognizing them as wrongdoing. The first undeniable warning came from the employee cafeteria, where a reliable family-owned catering company that had served Meridian for nearly 20 years was suddenly replaced by an expensive technology vendor. The new coffee machines even forced employees to watch promotional videos featuring Olivia before dispensing a drink. Most workers laughed about the ridiculous system, but I reviewed the purchasing records and discovered that the replacement cost nearly 4 times more than the previous agreement, while providing significantly worse service. That was when suspicion became certainty. I compared quarterly financial reports with confidential operational forecasts and discovered that the company's most profitable shipping divisions were shrinking rapidly because experienced logistics managers had been replaced by inexperienced executives who trusted flashy software more than real-world freight knowledge. Critical medical deliveries were being delayed, customs violations were increasing, and millions of pounds were disappearing through consulting firms connected by complicated ownership structures to people associated with Olivia's advisors. 3 days later, Human Resources announced that every employee would surrender their existing security credentials and receive newly designed biometric access cards. They proudly described it as a revolutionary technological upgrade and ordered everyone to destroy their old identification badges by Friday evening. They had no idea that several years earlier, after a serious governance scandal had threatened investor confidence, Samuel Grayson had authorized a confidential oversight program known as Integrity Protocol 7. A handful of executive access cards had been secretly equipped with encrypted verification technology, capable of independently recording access to sensitive meeting rooms, documenting who attended confidential meetings, which official documents were displayed, and when critical decisions were made. Even most board members had forgotten the system existed. I knew that my badge would stop functioning once it was deactivated, so during my final week, I deliberately attended every executive planning session I could legitimately access. I said very little. I simply listened, observed, and allowed the encrypted system to preserve an undeniable chain of evidence, while senior executives unknowingly documented their own misconduct.